A moment of silence for Drag Race Down Under. It passed away. It had beautiful Cuckoo sitting here for makeup, shade, tea, and more. For this season, on behalf of Drag Race, our condolences. Hi, Ugly. It's me, Bussy, and welcome back to Hot or Rat. And yes, it did hurt when I fell from hell. Sorry about that. Breaking news, the reviews are in, and according to IMDb, Drag Race Down Under is officially one of the worst user-rated seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race ever. Down Under is currently sitting at an average episodic rating of 5.975 out of 10 stars. It loses only to Drag Race Holland, whose average episodic rating is just 0.037 points lower. For comparison's sake, Season 13's rating, calculated the same way, is 6.631, Canada's is 7.330, All-Star 5's is 7.663, Season 12's is 7.836, UK Season 2's is 8.210, and Drag Race España is currently the highest rated season of Drag Race to premiere in the past 2 years, with an average episodic rating of 8.425. But that begs the question, why is Drag Race Down Under sitting at the bottom of the barrel? What the hell happened? Today we'll be digging up the lifeless body of Drag Race down 6 feet under and performing a little autopsy to determine its cause, a flop. Make sure to buckle up because we'll be taking a look back at some of this season's biggest missteps, doing some cross-season comparisons, and then finally we'll complete my hot or rot for this series by taking a look at the finale where Dr. Phil, RuPaul, crowns a winner. Now, let's get started. Drag Race Australia was first announced in August of 2019 by Pink News, slating RuPaul and Michelle Visage as judges. And then on May 1st, 2021, and 7 seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race later, Drag Race Down Under premiered. I don't think anyone could have expected what we ultimately got out of this season, but at least it was full of surprises. I got my first inclination that something might be a little bit off concerning this season when the cast announcement went out on Twitter on March 6th. That video featured Michelle Visage and the new third permanent judge, Reese Nicholson, announcing the cast members from what appeared to be the judging panel. The shots of them yelling the contestants' names to what was very obviously an empty stage were spliced together with the actual workroom entrances of each queen. And like, the disjointedness of that was weird enough for me, but then the workroom absolutely sent me. Like, from the little Cupid statues to the really small lights or just like the small little work neon sign, it just seemed really chaotic and haphazard. Stranger yet, there were no official promo looks to complement this cast announcement. The season itself is also extremely under-promoted in general. Holland, Canada, UK, España, and of course the US seasons all have their own official social media channels. But why not Down Under? Everything just felt rushed, to put it nicely. Rumor has it though that all of this was due to the pandemic. Filming had been pushed back from its original 2020 dates in Australia and moved to January of 2021 in Auckland, New Zealand. Which means, assuming they completed this season sometime in, I don't know, mid-February, that means that the editors and producers had only like 10 weeks to turn this around for the premiere, which is a wild turnaround time for reality television. For example, typical US Drag Race seasons film the summer of the year prior to their air dates. So rushed? Yeah, it was. Drag Race Down Under? More like Drag Race Russia. However, all things considered, I was happy to overlook some pandemic-related production issues. At least we were still getting a new season of Drag Race. But little did we know, the small cracks in Drag Race Down Under's facade would soon open wide enough for a fist to enter and re-enter. So now let's get into what went wrong. The premiere rolls around and we see our queens walk into the workroom again. 10 fresh queens out of thousands, I'm sure, that applied, right? Wrong. Turns out, Courtney Act actually spilled some tea related to the Drag Race Down Under casting process on her podcast, Brenda Call Me.
So, the casting process, they didn't put out a call for people to submit auditions for Drag Race, which they normally do.
Yeah.
And so instead, one of the casting producers just sent messages. But the thing is, it wasn't from an official account. She had an Instagram account that exclusively had photos of those hairless Sphinx cats. So all of these drag queens around Australia and New Zealand are getting messages in their DMs in the other folder on their Instagram accounts from some, like, seemingly, I'm sure very lovely, but seemingly crazy cat lady saying, could you please send me an email? I have an important opportunity. I'm like, honey, I've had important opportunities.
They're all important, apparently.
They're all important accounts.
Which is just... wild. Maybe a little bit of an omen for the production issues that we would have later. And maybe, due to the pandemic, they didn't have an opportunity to run a formal auditions process.
She's already the hand hurt.
Prance on over to rdrcasting.com.
But to me, it smells more like riggery. Like from a technical standpoint, how can this competition be fair if it's invitation only? Anyways, our premiere overall is well received. Users on IMDb rated it an average of 7.1 out of 10 stars, which is pretty good. This was at least higher than season 13's and Holland's premieres, which had both been in the past year. Concerning the next couple of episodes though, we see a confusing series of decisions made by the judges, which ultimately lead to the downfall of the season. Dipping from averages of 6.5 to 6.3 and then to 4.9 in episodes 2, 3, and 4 respectively. I already discussed everything that went wrong in the Snatch game in my episodic review, which I encourage you to go back and watch, but the short of it is that it just was not aired fairly. Some Snatch game performances were hidden and ignored, like Karen's, and others were overly emphasized for being bad, like, for example, Coco's and Art's. Another issue in the Snatch game was Etcetera's performance, which made fun of Lindy Chamberlain. I would say this was like 50-50 positive and super negative, depending on who you talked to. So while Etcetera's choice of character for Snatch game wasn't necessarily the fault of the production, they could maybe have anticipated the blowback from that and maybe asked her to do a different character. At least Anita was like a saving grace in this episode though. For context, the only Snatch game in the history of Snatch games to score lower in IMDb user ratings is Drag Race Holland's, with a score of 4.1, but we don't need to get into that today. We also recently found out after the finale aired that there were some crazy production-related shenanigans going on in this episode other than what happened in Snatch game. In a now deleted tweet, Art said, "Now that it's over, am I allowed to talk about how they lost the footage and we had to come back days later to film my elimination? And then Coco Jumbo and I had to do that lip sync 3 times in a row? We knew based off those invitations they were sending out to hand select queens, they were a little unprofessional, but that is unheard of. Definitely would not be fun to relive your elimination 3 times in one day, much less to come back and redo it later, but at least she got a memeable moment out of it." Overall, I would say most of what happened in the first 2 episodes was fine. It was fine. I was happily but cautiously tuning into episode 3. Unfortunately, that's where we see Coco Jumbo, our last person of color in the competition, eliminated. And while you can argue there whether it was her time to leave the competition or not, this is what sets up the incredible amount of fan backlash we saw leading into and coming from episode 4. RuPaul makes the decision to bring back Art Simone. Not Jojo, Coco, and Art Simone, but just Art Simone. And before I talk more about it, I do want to quickly say this was in no way Art's fault or decision, so please don't bother her about this. I don't think there has ever been this much backlash to a queen returning to the competition, ever. Like, usually it's ceremonious. We as an audience are excited to see what this early eliminated queen has to offer. And the reason for queens returning to the competition is not always given. Carmen Carrera, Kenya Michaels, and Naysha Lopez were all brought back in their original seasons with no other reasons given to the audience for them coming back other than Ru or the panel of judges wanted them back. Sometimes, though, returning queens have a little more justification. Trixie Mattel returned to season 7 after winning the makeover challenge with Pearl, and Joe Black in UK Series 2 was voted back in by his peers. So why the problem? Why the uproar? The remaining members of the competition were all white at that point. So while her return technically needed no justification in the context of RuPaul's Drag Race, it did feel like it was lacking in social awareness. And as Coco put on Twitter, it felt like they were just giving the white girl a chance for no reason. And then the icing on the cake for this episode was sending home Snatch Game winner and fan favorite Anita Wigl'it, who probably shouldn't have been in the bottom anyways. And the person that sent her home, Karen from Finance, was wearing a look that I thought deserved immediate elimination. Like, there was just nothing redeeming about it. That was the moment I realized that, oh, they're gonna push Karen through to the end of this competition no matter what happens. Now, get ready for the big one, episode 5, which is just made worse and compounded by what just happened in episode 4. In this episode, we see RuPaul go for what I think she thought would be her Emmy-winning moment. She calls out Scarlet's past cultural appropriation and blackface in performances and then forgives her. And look, I do think that Ru tried to do the right thing here, but the optics of already having sent home both people of color from the competition and then snubbing them from returning to the show in favor of a white contestant, and then having this conversation, and then also sending home the person that was most outspoken against Scarlet in the workroom earlier that episode, were not good. Most importantly though, I think the show missed a huge opportunity to build bridges between the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and the non-Indigenous populations of these regions. Like, especially since the episode aired during Reconciliation Week. Come on. This episode, by the way, has an average rating of 5.2 stars. Anyways, episode 6 comes along. It's the makeover challenge. I didn't even review this episode, and I don't even know if anybody even noticed because I think so many people stopped watching. Turns out it was actually really cute, and Kid and Mean got a much-deserved win in the competition. And it was the season's second highest user-reviewed episode with 7.2 stars. But, drum roll please, only Drag Race Down Under could mess this up this bad. It all comes crashing down in the 7th episode, The Talent Show. This episode is tied for the worst episode in RuPaul's Drag Race history, ever, of all the seasons, 26 of them. The one it's tied with, by the way, is the All-Stars 4 finale. Turns out fans did not like that double crowning. It just felt like a wild fever dream of an episode. As a reminder, Karen's balloon animal got a "that's it" from Michelle, and Elektra's performance got a "oh, this was so good it should be in a Sia music video," and then they ended up putting Elektra in the bottom and sending her home in a lip sync against Kid and Mean, who also shouldn't have been in the bottom. Basically, I think the only purpose of this episode was to just show us that this season has indeed been rigged from the start. Anyways, now we get to present day, the finale. I honestly watched this one a little bit begrudgingly. I was like, girl, after that talent show, I don't even care anymore, but I'm glad I did. As a reminder, in our final four is Art with 0 wins, Karen with 1 from episode 1, Kita with 1 from the Makeover Challenge, and Scarlet with 3 wins, being from the Talent Show, Design Challenge, and Queens Down Under Performance Challenge. Our final four had to write lyrics for and perform original choreography for a remix to I'm a Winner Baby, and then walk on the runway in their best drag. First up, with the voice of an angel, it's Kita Mean. I will say in the main challenge, it was really nice to see her do a serious take on this song. I think in any other season, this may have been ignored or pushed aside, but I think it was really important to her journey to self-love that we found out about during the lunch and also in the little section where she's talking to herself as a child. Somehow I went from I'm still not really sure who this person is, but I like them, to oh my god, I love them and they have a beautiful soul in 55 minutes. This performance was hot. As for her runway, I wonder if it hurt when she fell from the K-hole. Obviously this was beautiful. I love her taking a chance on the mechanical angel wings, and I was kind of wondering if this maybe was an homage to Courtney Act's original angel wings from her season. I think this look was perfectly paired to her performance and everything else I mentioned previously. Love, light, and happiness. This look was white hot. As for Karen from Finance, she may be breaking glass ceilings in the office, but I'm reporting this outfit to HR. I can deal with the Elvis part of it, but I don't like the K on the belt. It reminds me of that SpongeBob episode where Patrick is like flipping the M around a Wumbo. And my other issue with her actual lyrics was I feel like RuPaul was kind of asking Karen, are you ever gonna step outside of your, Karen from Finance office box? And she was kind of like, maybe yes, maybe no. And then her lyrics kind of were related to being in the office regardless of it all. I think I just have to give this a rot. And on the runway, chugga chugga choo choo alakazam. This outfit is perfect for when you have that kids magic show gig booked at the local mall at 3, and then you also have to have that report on your boss's desk by 5. I struggled with this look too because it is quintessentially Karen and it does look well made. So like for only Karen, I do like this for her. I'm gonna give it a hot, but I also hate it. I think it's gonna be another rat. Overall, I wanted to learn more about who Karen from Finance actually was, like in her off hours, away from the office. Like, girl, what do you do on the weekends? Tell us. And as for Art, her performance and outfit for the main challenge were spunky, funky, funny, just, I think a really great representation of Art growing up a little bit in this competition. It felt like she was finally having fun, if just a little bit too late. But this performance was definitely hot. And on the runway, oh my god, she killed the Aquamarine Teen Dream. She kind of looks like one of those little Barbie dolls that you like pull the ripcord on and she like spins around. Have you seen that thing where it like flies into the fireplace? I have no complaints. It's gorgeous, perfect, beautiful, hot. Overall, I can tell there is a queen, not just of Down Under, but of the entire universe within Art. And it may take a couple of years for her to come to full fruition, but I want to be there when it happens. Concerning Scarlet, her lyrics were cocky, sexy, fun, funny, exactly what you would expect from a queen like this. And her solo choreography was, I think, undoubtedly the best. She's an excellent dancer, which she already proved on the poll. Definitely hot. For her final runway, I do admit I was a little underwhelmed, but only because of what we had already seen from her in the previous episode. It's just hard to top something like that. So I think if she ever were to compete on Drag Race again, she'll need to be really conscious of, playing her trump card until the very, very end. That said, I think it's excellent to know that she has toned down glamour in her wheelhouse. I think this look was hot. I thought about what I would say about Scarlet in closing, and honestly, it's hard to find words to discuss somebody so controversial. Speaking from the perspective of talent, she had everything she needed to win, and she proved it. She went into the finale with 3 wins. Yet ultimately, she had no chance of winning. Giving Scarlet the crown would have just been, I think, the cherry on top of a season full of bad optics. I don't think it would have been good for the franchise or for her. Generally speaking, it's a shame how this season mishandled really serious topics that deserved more care. Concerning Scarlet and those topics, I think she should count herself lucky to have been able to share her story on an international platform. Better yet, she was also able to share with the world her talent in drag. Now, it's up to her, I think, to be able to prove her commitment to being a better person and changing not only her life, but those around her, and uplifting and helping those communities that are disenfranchised and marginalized in her community. And finally, let's briefly talk about that lip sync to Olivia Newton-John's Physical. I have to say, this, I think, was one of the best lip sync for the crowns of all time. Seriously. Everyone was so much fun, Ketamine in particular, and I think the obvious winner of the 4 for the lip sync. So Ketamine is given the crown, rightly so. I think she really was the only one that could have rightfully won this crown and represented the franchise the best. Turns out, a bit of ketamine was exactly what we needed after such a traumatizing season. My hottest hot for the best drag runway goes to Art Simone. I also asked my patrons who their hottest hot was, and this week they've chosen ketamine. As for my final thoughts, I think Drag Race Down Under Season 1 is an excellent example of what not to do in future international seasons. But at least they won't forget how it was received, and hopefully they can use it to learn how to make the next season if it gets renewed. I think a lot of culprits contributed to the disaster of this season. It wasn't just bad judging, and I think the lack of time that they had to actually produce this season just made all that even worse. I do want to remind you that the production of this season was not the Queen's fault, so please continue to support them and don't hold them accountable for something that was outside of their control. And finally, long live ketamine. I also want to say thank you for tuning into today's video and give a special thanks to my generous patrons who make my channel possible. In exchange for just a couple bucks a month, they get exclusive patron member benefits like exclusive videos, early access to my videos, access to the Bussy Queen Discord server, and more. Join my patron family today at patreon.com/BussyQueen. See you there. I also want to give a special shout out to DeAndre, Pam Dulce, Xteen M, Cher, Laurel, and MJ Nava, who've all just joined my Patreon at the hot tier, and Aiden Smith, Alial, Hannah Miriam, Anthony, August, Everywhere, B-Rolls, Bradley, Cameron, Cherry Poppins, Christopher, Clam Oosdale, Deutsche Leather, Dr. Martin, Evan, Fabio, Fractalize, GJ Bearclaw, Got the Morbs, Jenny, Jay, Janex, Jonah, Johnny, Kiki and John, Madam Muffy, Markowitz, Maddie Morissette, Millennial Hissyfit, Nathan, Opal, Pasquale Nava, Green Celsi Canister, Ron, Shannon, Chazzy, Sky, Tammy, Thomas, Timotheus, Timothy, Tony, Travis, Unique, Vendetta, and Wheelie, who were all supporting me at my hottest hot tier, and Angel, Caroline, Cyrus, Felicia, Cody P, JB, Joseph, JP in Dallas, Laura, Nurse Luca, Matthew, Mike, Robert, Scooby Snacks, Sailor, Stephen, Tom Jaco, Tom Young, and Triton, who were all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye. This is definitely the gayest I've ever felt.